Hello, hello. I almost forgot to turn off the reverb on my microphone before I began. Luckily, I remembered. But yes, it is no longer October. I had such a fun time on Halloween that when I woke up the next morning and I realized that it was no longer a spooky time, I was really like shocked and sad. I mean, I was feeling like October was sort of a long month while it was happening, and I feel like it wasn't long enough. And I've mentioned like 15 times now, there's a lot of games I didn't get to play that I want to, so I'm going to start that today. Although I am kind of lacking a plan, I did want to just chat a little bit first because I am technically starting earlier than usual. A spooky season as long as we want. The world is what we make it. And I have a cup of green tea to enjoy this evening. The little ghost thingy above my head is staying up. So, some of the games I wanted to play. Here's a sad thing. My dear, beloved, and trusted moderator, Yuta, can't come to this stream because I think that most of the games I want to stream today are things that I've been waiting for him to play himself. And he's just like, no, I don't know. He was like, oh, I'm not gonna start a new video game to play until my birthday because like on his birthday, he's gonna start, I forget what he's getting, like the new Donkey Kong, I think? Does he not have it? I think he doesn't have it, and he was really wanting that. And he spends like pretty much, it's okay for me to say this, right? He pretty much just spends all of his time playing video games. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, that's what I'm gonna be doing right now. But he has this like flow of when he gets into a game, he will be playing like just that for a long time, and he didn't want to start anything that might potentially get in the way of that, which I don't think that playing Who's Lila would get in the way of starting the Donkey Kong monkey game on his birthday, but you know, he hasn't, so he doesn't get to come to this stream. I'm not gonna play Who's Lila, I'm gonna play games that are related to Who's Lila. So hello, Souffle. So there was a little bit of an issue, which is that one of these games, actually the first one I want to play, it doesn't have a windowed mode, and when I force it into windowed mode, I wasn't able to change the resolution, even though I have something that is supposed to like forcibly resize thingies, the programs. That was what I was using for Undertale. Maybe it's because that game like starts out in windowed mode, and this one it doesn't work. I'm not really sure how it works. It could be that there's some way, but yes, I only have one monitor. So when I play this one, I won't be able to read the chat. But before I begin, I will still just talk a bit because my weekend was okay. I've been feeling like kind of motivated now that we're reaching the end of the year. There was a lot of stuff I didn't get to talk about last year because I was so focused on reading the creepypastas. We are now approaching the end of the year. I don't feel negatively about it, but I'm also like, thinking about all this stuff I want to do, and I've been reflecting on everything that has happened this year and things that I've been able to do, which I feel pretty good about, but I'll save that like sentimental stuff for like my birthday or something. But there was a thought I had. What was it? It was something about November. Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just going I guess I'm gonna be doing a lot of work, but I am also feeling kind of relaxed because obviously my schedule got a little bit messed up in October, and I feel like I'm okay with just streaming whatever. So I will begin in a moment. This first game is called, see if I can pronounce it correctly. I don't know that I can. Schastye? Schastye? It is supposedly related to Who's Lila, which is a game I streamed a couple months ago, which is like about, I mean, I have a highlight video on it too, but yeah, it's about a boy who cannot control his facial movements, and also there's some strange things going on, and I don't want to spoil it. Although I guess I am going to end up spoiling it as I play this game because I kind of wanted to talk about some of my thoughts with that one. But I wanted to play a couple other games by this developer. There's also a demo. The developer's name is Garage Heathen. There's also a demo they have for the next bigger game they're working on. These two I'm going to play today are a bit smaller. So I don't really know what to expect. I read the reviews. It has mixed reviews. And people just said, like, this isn't going to make any sense unless you have played Who's Lila. In fact, the feature said... Okay, I'll read about this game. A miniature frozen between the atmosphere of a small room and Castaneda with Lovecraft? I don't know what that is. The story of radical spiritual practices in the search for truth among panels and stacks. To find out what happened to the mechanic from Nizhnevartovsk, you will have to write his story on your own. Schastye is a kind of walking simulator within the room, meditation to the noises of everyday life, or just a visual novel. First of all, this is an artistic manipulation with word and form, only then a game. Features atmosphere of the beginning of the zeroth in the CIS, unique musical accompaniment, the opportunity to hate or love the game, and it's like 15 to 25 minutes. So I'm going to wait. I think I gotta okay, it's gonna take me a moment to set up. I'm gonna change category. Games demos. I think I'll write in the title the names of the games that I want to play today. So Schastye, Your Amazing Tigachi. I'm gonna become sad because that's my... I need to assign that to this expression to something else. Because every time I write an exclamation mark, I get sad. There we go. Okay. I might have accidentally opened Clip Studio Paint. I did. Let me close that real quick. It's because it's pinned to my taskbar. Die. Yeah, maybe this game will be like very relaxing. Oh no, how do I make it full screen again? Uh-oh. How do... Okay, I did it. You just press like Alt Enter again. Hi Croy Croy. Hello Zorklo. So yes, give me a moment to set this up. Even the resolution, because so it's full screen and my laptop's screen resolution is even a bit unusual, so it doesn't quite fit, but it's fine. Let's see. Yeah, the music sounds just like Who's Lila too. Yeah, here you can you hear it? Yes, you should be able to. All right. So I'm actually, oh my goodness, I forgot to plug in my wireless mouse. I'll be playing this with my mouse. And probably the other one too. So I guess I'm gonna be like looking like this a lot. Like off to the side. Hopefully that's fine. Be careful about arranging stuff. Okay. Alright. So I'm not gonna be able to see the chat for most of like this game. I'll wait, should I make it so you can see my mouse, or maybe it doesn't matter? I will like come out of the game to check the chat sometimes because it doesn't break if I tab out, I don't think. Yes, let us just begin. I did open it before to test it, which is why I realized that I won't be able to see the chat while playing this. You can move with Wasad, I suppose. Is that Incense? And Garage Heathen's little mascot character. But yeah, I mean, I was obviously thinking a lot about Who's Lila after I finished it. I had more thought. Like, when I finished it, there was still so many things that I didn't understand, which I was completely okay with. There's some things which I don't think could ever really possibly be answered. But I did have a little bit of a thought, because I kept being like, why is what's her face, Lila, why does Lila have the same face as the other girl, Tanya, if William had been basically manifesting Lila before he actually met Tanya? Like, he didn't meet Tanya until, like, what, months or so after he had, like, forcibly erased Lila from his mind. But I was thinking, because they did mention that he had been around at school before, even if he wasn't really going because he was like part of the fraternity. I don't know how many people are here who are even going to remember anything about what happened in Who is Lila, but I need to talk about this. I need to organize my thoughts. But I was thinking that it is like, because Lila, the way that she worked with, she was sort of like made up of, you know, things in people's consciousness, sort of. That it would make sense if he had just like seen her in his periphery, not really thought about her. But when he was manifesting Lila, her face would have been used. I think that's my theory. That's my game theory that I'm imagining. Anyway, I'll try and play the game, but is there anything else I can interact with? I feel like that's going to be distracting while I'm writing. This is also a very tiny room. No. Yeah, turn that off. Continue writing. Is Microsoft Word? Oh! Okay, I just mashed my keyboard, but it comes up with text anyway. It's 2/5 April 2004. My name is Ivan Alexandrovich Yauto. I work as a car mechanic in the Russian town of Nizhnevartovsk. While in my free time, I enjoy coding and literature. I have been married for 6 years. However, 4 years ago, I had to part ways with my spouse. It didn't happen earlier due to the 2 kids we had. Do you know what a Keen is a computer program that outputs its own code. Perhaps a more romantic person than I would compare it to a self-fulfilling prophecy. The divorce with Anna Matvievna Yatuau has not made my life easier. The most difficult part of it all was not being able to see my sons, Misha and Andrei Yatuau. At first, their mother would try to hinder our meetings in any way she could. Then she took them and moved to Nefteyugansk, severing our contacts completely. Being left by myself, I succumbed to the solace for which my nation is so notorious among the educated world, vodka. My actions were caused by additionally by a series of cuts at my place of work that resulted in me losing the job. After spending all of my remaining savings on alcohol, I had to move in with my mother, for I was not able to pay for the rent. It's curious how similarly our brain reacts to some neural stimuli. It is proven now that most of the lingual formations invoke identical neural responses in the brain of most people. Therefore, the reading of this text, for example, would induce the same neural reaction in almost any human reader. We were living on the ground floor. My poor elderly mum hardly left the apartment while I started my morning with a bottle of Tolka on the bench in front of our building. That way, I have soon found friends. The company was rather motley. It consisted of squalid academicians, Afghan veterans unable to find themselves. Hold on, I guess. Gotta make sure. Yep. Trying to remember the best, but I didn't. Didn't Layla bully the guy? Oh, you mean Tanya or Lila? I mean, they kind of both bullied him, yeah. Hi, cool guy man person. Sorry, I can't read the chat while I'm playing this game because I only have one monitor and it's full screen. Also, isn't this song in Who's Lila? Yeah, it's the song from the party. Anyway, let me continue. They find themselves in civil life. Turkmen janitors and silent, sinewy laborers who would spend their daytime at job site, occasionally beat their wives, I thought I was going to say beat their meat, and drink heavily in the evenings. The latter looked as though they were born through condensation on the gray concrete walls of this town, being the literal extension of it. One person stood out among them. His name was Fedor Ivanovich Ryubkin. That's the dude from Who's Lila, right? Was that his whole name or is it just the surname? He was like a researcher. I mean, he's not in the game, but he's I forgot what he did. He was involved with the like Tulpa stuff. He was like some sort of conspiracy theorist, but he was right. I'm not exactly sure how he ended up in our company. Fedor Stepanovich had a stable job. Engineer at Tarhovsky Ltd. I don't know what Ltd stands for, I have to admit. I think, is it limited? A 2-room apartment at the Lenin Street. And, as I have learned later, a small home library. When drinking, he never acted aggressively, never cried and complained. As a rule, his eyes gained some sort of a spark. And from a puny bald man, he would transform into a charismatic, almost inspiring figure. One wanted to follow him. I got to know him better last winter. In the evenings, our company would roam about in the neighborhood. We would hang out on the porches, playgrounds, and yards of nearby apartment buildings. That evening, a janitor called Maksut and his homeless friend Vanetka were having their usual fun, singing loud songs in the yard, terrorizing bypassing teens, and occasionally fighting each other. Fedor Stepanovich followed them quietly, while I was hit by a tide of melancholy, an emotion characteristical for that period of my life. At some point, I just sat down on a frozen tire sticking out of the ground. Snow started falling, wind was howling in the pipes above, but high rises around the yard were hiding me from it. I still had a bottle with the remaining... still had a bottle with the remains of talca in my hand that was gradually finishing. Snow sticking to my face has already stopped bothering me. My eyelids were heavy. Arms, knees weak, mom spaghetti. It was getting harder and harder to keep my head up until I finally fell into a heavy, crepuscular dream. I was having the usual murky visions that one experiences when under the influence. Is it getting darker right now? Anyway, white trees emanated quiet crackles. Why is it getting darker? Can I get up? Anyway, as seemingly electrical in nature surrounded me, somehow I knew they were sycamores. It was hard to see anything, as a wall of impenetrable darkness started at the arm length. Aside from crackles, the trees seemed to emit a different sound. It was quiet, light music, so tender and strange that it became instantly clear. It was not of a human origin. After wandering for several minutes, or maybe days, I've stumbled upon an edge of that world. The stripe of white soil simply ended with a clean border. There was only darkness ahead. As I stepped past the margin, I have begun my unnaturally slow descent. I looked up and saw the world gradually revealing its underside. On it, an enormous creature sitting in an insect-like pose. Hold on, I gotta check on chat. You guys doing okay? It stands for limited. Hello, Jaruku. Sorry, I can't read the chat because my game's full screen and I only have one monitor. It looked remotely like a monkey had snake eyes and was wearing some sort of mushroom-shaped hat. Its blue monkey lips were stretched in an uncanny smile, revealing a row of enormous yellow teeth. This is one of the, like, not demons, but like one of the people, right? One of the beings and whatever the fuck the Lila shit. I should have played this like way sooner after who's Lila, because then I would remember what things are. What do you call it? Is it the prince or is it? I woke up in an unfamiliar apartment. That wasn't a very big surprise. Suffering from hangover, I was struggling to identify whose apartment it was. The room was hardly furnished. All it had was a bed on which I lied, a writing desk with a computer, and a colorful poster depicting John Lennon. Stumbling, is this me? I proceeded to the door. Bookshelves occupied most of the next room. On a little pillar in the corner stood a small wooden statue. It depicted a sort of midget with a snake-shaped penis and a weird mushroom-like hat. A saucer filled with dry sticks of incense, yeah, that's what's in my room, lied before it. It emitted light smoke. I could hear the sound of something frying from the kitchen. As I went there, I saw Fedor Stepanovich Rybkin wearing an old morning gown. Are we married? He was frying some eggs. Something from the Beatles was playing on the radio. I awkwardly asked where the toilet was. He pointed silently. As I urinated, I felt more and more uneasily. What was that weird thing in his living room? Why did he bring me to his house? He must have known I had my keys with me. Strange explanations came to mind, mostly homoerotic in nature, but I swept them away bravely. Finally, after gathering up the courage, I returned to the kitchen. Even now, my memories of everything that happened in the next year are crystal clear. Fedor Stepanovich turned out to be a decent man. He told me more about his job at Tarkal, shared a story of his own divorce. Then he showed me his library. It was a rather strange collection. I saw a hip little book by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, one exemplar of Chapayev and Void by Victor Pelevin, even a shabby Azi. Oh my god, I thought this one was talking to me in real life. Azif, by A. Al-Hazred. However, most of the space was occupied by a collection of works of some Marcel Grouillard. For some reason, the name felt familiar, as though I have heard it sometime in my childhood. Fedor Stepanovich seemed somewhat surprised after I asked about the nature of Grouillard's work, but was kind enough to answer. Marcel Grouillard was an anthropologist, Africanist, known for his studies of the Dogon people of West Africa. One can still acquire records of his expedition to Senegal in 1933, as well as some rather unconventional methods used by Grouillard during his research of the extensive and surprisingly sophisticated mythology of Dogons. About 5 volumes of his work are dedicated to certain family of mushrooms, usually referred to as teth. Yeah, this is the mushrooms that made them able to contact Lila, right? Or like that whole like world. For a recap, the cult. I mean, is it a cult? The fraternity that William, in whose Lila was a part of, they were consuming these mushrooms to be able to manifest Lila. According to in the very developed astrological culture of Dogons, this particular mushroom was known not only as a celestial projection of the star Sirius, but also as a physical embodiment of a certain nameless god. It is rather hard to make out what the nature of the nameless god is, at least from Marcel Grouillard's entries, despite the numerous descriptions of allegedly real dialogues that took place between the author and the nameless deity. All of them appear to be very vague, filled with the unclear vocabulary and queer metaphors. I was beginning to understand something. When I again asked about the strange figurine, instead of answering me, Fedor Stepanovich led me to the room where I woke up initially. He sighed and opened a table drawer. There were a couple of tiny, dry, pale mushrooms with thin, long stems lying there. He offered me one of them. After that experience, I have almost quit drinking. With the help of an old friend, I have found a new job, which helped my mother and me immensely. Another thing I needed money for were the experiments that Fedor Stepanovich and I were now carrying out. We acquired the teth mushrooms. That's what the mushrooms in the jar were. Through Rybkin's relative. A Soviet Africanist, he was sent on a scientific mission to Senegal under the order of USSR. At the time of sailing, use of mushrooms was not regulated in West Africa. So the relative was able to bring a large amount of them back as a souvenir. In his turn, Marcel was kind enough to describe in detail how to contact the nameless god. Of course, the figurine I saw earlier depicted that very nameless god. Why did I want to meet it so badly? I have never taken drugs in my life. Maybe I wanted to get it through to somebody outside the gray-colored garbage that was the universe around. I needed to complain to someone who wasn't compromised. I needed to complain to someone who wasn't comprised of the same nausea-inducing substance as the world I lived in. I desired an answer. I wanted to know exactly why I have been trampling this earth for 40 years already. Fedor Stepanovich, in his turn, was led by pure scientific interest. The first phase of preparations included in a series of intense meditations. For hours, we would sit cross-legged, freeing our heads of endless quarrels that various inner dwellers of our minds would have between each other. As we succeeded, it turned out that it was just these quarrels that our minds consisted of. Knots would loosen up on the ribbon that was our consciousness, gradually become unwoven, and fall down in rings, until finally disappear altogether. The rest was easy. Each of us needed to take 4 grams of the 10th mushrooms and build a means of transportation that would take us to the nameless deity. After some discussion, we have decided on Volga, because both of us were familiar with that car model. Okay, I was responsible for visualizing the hood and chassis. Wait, so... Oh, this is the means of transport... Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, what? So they're taking the mushrooms and they're imagining a Volga car to take them to the nameless deity. Okay. And they're all imagining individual parts of it. Fedor Stepanovich dealt with the steering system and the car body. About 3 years of painstakingly rebuilding the familiar vehicle from scratch in our minds. Sometimes the car part would turn out weird. What? And then tremble and disappear into thin air, in which case the whole process had to be repeated. Finally, a glowing automobile stood in front of us. Its windows were shining with rainbow glares, and its tires were ringing subtly like bells. Ryubkin took the place behind the wheel, and I sat beside him. The engine was emitting a quiet electrical crackling. We took off. The tires rustled, and the walls of the room started to move according to their axes. Left and right walls were pulled behind us. The ceiling flashed sparkles as it jerked upwards. The floor was stationary for a time until it suddenly crumbled entirely, falling off in geometric shapes. Steadily accelerating, we flew through fractal spaces. The world around was changing constantly, acquiring new shapes that grew out of one another, turning inside out. Red and orange spheres bursted open as they turned into blue, infinitely long, sharp towers connected to each other by numerous thin lilac bridges that rotated in countless dimensions and unfathomably turned back into orange spheres that were now covered in an innumerable amount of copies of themselves, gyrating. Finally, the engine went silent. We were here in the forest, the one that I saw in my dream. The sky was just as black, but one could now see a huge golden sun shining through the darkness. The nameless god with snake eyes was waiting for us in the middle of the forest. His grin was infinitely more terrifying than the figurine could convey. Fedor Stepanovich fell on his knees. I attempted to do the same, but quickly discovered that I didn't have any knees, nor did I possess a body. Something strange was happening to Ryubkin. His face looked just like the sound of blue car horn, as his whole body gathered into some sort of spindle, as though readying itself for an energetic jump. The attention of the nameless god was wrapping itself around Fedor Stepanovich's head in a form of golden glow. When it focused into an infinitely bright dot, there was a loud snap and Ryubkin disappeared. My following dialogue with the nameless god is almost impossible to describe with words. It wasn't exactly a dialogue either, for it turned out that the nameless god, as well as I, as well as the forest around and the absence of Fedor Stepanovich Ryubkin, in it are no more than disturbances on the surface of the ribbon compromising our minds. Nothing existed but that ribbon, so it was only natural that the ribbon itself did not exist either. There was but one wish keeping me from forever diluting in the absolute knowledge of the world's essence. All I strived for now was to share this incredible godly blessedness with every one human being in this universe. Then, employing the voice of Fedor Stepanovich Ryubkin, the nameless god told me about the prophecy The prophecy is a combination of words, the general semantic sense of which would lead any human reader, no matter the age, sex, or nationality, to get a complete and instant grasp of the essence of existence. The understanding does not come directly. All the prophecy does is activate neural chains in a specific order. As a result, the path into nothingness is built in the reader's subconsciousness. Any person who read the text would inevitably revert to their original form. To put it simply, the reader would forever disappear from this world, severing and unwinding the vines of their existence. As I came to my senses in the living room, I saw Fedor Stepanovich lying near me, unconscious. His nose was bleeding. My head was killing me, but without losing time, I went to the room with the computer. John Lennon was still there, looking at me from the poster. After swallowing another 2 of the pale mushrooms, I opened Word and started typing the prophecy. As you probably have guessed, you are reading it right now. The nameless God has dictated me the words of the prophecy, and I will remember them forever. When I type the last word, my existence will stop, as I will stop the existence of any person who read it. Farewell, Andrusha and Misha. Farewell, Fedor Stepanovich. Where we are going, there will be no sadness. There will only... Oh. Thank you for playing. Thanks, Garage Heathen. That was very Garage Heathen of you. I guess it's over. Cool. Yeah, that's it. Okay. That was very interesting. That was pretty pog for me as a Who's Lila fan. That was like a lot of lore. That was very interesting. It's basically a visual novel. But yeah, you absolutely will not get anything out of this if you didn't play Who's Lila, which I highly recommend. It's a very interesting game. You won't play anything like it. Those Layla mushrooms are too much for them. Yeah, oh my goodness. Interesting one to start out with. I'm not sure what much else I can say. I don't know. I really like their style of writing. And I have been wondering, I'm going to stream the demo of their other game at some point. Last Look Along Woodward Boulevard. It's like a 6-hour long demo or something, so that's gonna have to be its own stream. But I was hoping that would maybe be connected, at least in the same world as Who's Lila. Because I highly recommend that. I'm going to play another one by the same developer now. Give me a moment.